So, April was a decent month. In terms of movies, there were some that were really good. But in my opinion, everything was a little bit in the middle. TV is where I think a lot of stuff stood out, so I definitely have a lot of TV recommendations in this one, which is the April must-watch. I've been doing one for every single month. If you don't know, it's pretty much where I talk about and wrap up everything that I've seen for that month. Been doing one for every month of the year of our Lord 2018. But for this one, not only, like I said, do I have more TV recommendations, but even for the movie ones, I want to give a big shout out to Marcus Theaters, the best theaters in the Midwest. I've been working on a little sponsorship with them, and if you don't know, every Friday I've been trying to get you guys some free tickets. If you live in the Chicagoland area, try to hook you guys up. You know, I love giving you guys recommendations as I go out and see a bunch of stuff, tell you what's good, but to be able to work with a theater to get you guys free tickets to go see that stuff. But we're also trying to build it up, so if you're living not in Chicago, but in other places, to be able to hook you up with tickets as well. And the best thing to be able to grow that sponsorship, if you guys like the channel in any way, shape, or form, is to do the easy thing of just going to their Twitter or their Facebook page at Marcus Theaters, and then just like following it, liking it, and letting them know ATZ said this is the best theater in the Midwest. So if you like what we do here on the show, if you're a fan of it, definitely go do that. It would help it out. Even if you troll them, I'll be honest with you, any attention is good attention. But let's talk about the April wrap up, from all of the bad to my personal must watches of the month, because, you know, even if I didn't like something, you never know, it may end up being your favorite of the month. It ain't this though. I get it. Tommy Wiseau has a cult following, right? He's kind of like the cool cat guy. It's these dudes who, we know what we're getting into. We're watching these movies because we want them to be so bad they're good. But when you're charging people those phantom event prices, y'all gotta fix the volume on this thing. They literally made this because I guess Tommy was feeling bad after The Disaster Artist, which made him look like the type of person that he actually is. And they said this was based off of a true story. In no way, shape, or form. Greg Sestero is playing like homeless Jesus who ends up finding Tommy Wiseau, who's a mortician who like puts a mask on people so they can be who they want after they have died. And they realize that they can start a business by collecting all the gold that they find in these like people's mouths and jewelry or whatever else. They collect it and they start like this money laundering scheme. Problem is that it's a 2-hour movie and they only give you part of the movie. This thing is volume 1 of 2. If you know anything about screenwriting, there's 100 pages to a script, right? If there's 100 pages, that is supposed to equal to 100 minutes of screen time. They shot 4 hours off of this 100-page script, and they're like, you know what? Let's not cut anything. Let's just split it into 2 volumes, release it at those fandom event prices, and people are gonna come see it. It's trash, but you know I'm gonna be there to see volume 2 for you guys when it comes out in June.
Okay, big smiles.
Can you guys get it together?
Okay, yeah. Let's give me one more try.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Adam Sandler Netflix deal. This is part of, I think, the second round that they did. They signed another contract to release even more of these types of movies. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but if you know, if my goal is to find the best in a movie that I'm not a fan of, in this one where it's about Adam Sandler becoming the guy who has to pay for the whole wedding even though he can't afford it, and his daughter is marrying a dude whose father, played by Chris Rock, is completely rich because he's a surgeon, but he doesn't want to let that father pay for anything because he's still of those morals that the dad needs to pay for everything. The father of the bride needs to pay for everything, and so he does. There's one little moment. I can't recommend the movie. I was watching this thing and I was like, yo, we've been watching this for 2 hours. How is there an hour 40 still left? There's a moment where he finally gives up his daughter, right? Like when he releases her, when she finally gets married, you know, they break the glass because they're Jewish, and he finally feels sort of a relief, but like the most empty feeling in the world, because he can no longer, like, he feels he's no longer responsible for his daughter. And there's that one glimpse in there where you always call back and remember, Adam Sandler as a comedian can deliver some of the most dramatic moments in a movie. So Netflix, why do you have him doing this stuff? This is that movie that attracts people who love having their cell phones at freaking full light capacity. I don't know what it is with Blumhouse. I get it. You know, for every Get Out that they give us, they're gonna give us one of these. For every Whiplash, they're gonna give us one of these. I hope that whatever the good one is that they give us this year makes up for this one, because it's dumb fun. You know, the whole Snapchat filter looking thing, it's funny. Just because the movie says, oh, it's a weird Snapchat filter, doesn't mean that y'all put a weird Snapchat filter as your scary thing. The problem with the movie is that while I'm okay with dumb fun, the ending is literally one of the dumbest endings. If you have not seen this movie, if you try to defend that ending, you're probably not subscribed to this channel, but the thing with this ending is that it is hands down one of the dumbest endings that Blumhouse has ever created. And we're talking about a movie where teens get haunted for playing Truth or Dare.
Shimmy, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah. I thought you might want a sneak peek of what's to come.
I don't know if you know what sneak peek means. You're completely naked.
I have nothing against Amy Schumer other than her comedy, stealing jokes, the fact that she always says this.
Vagina. 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 Vagina's vagina. Vagina. Vagina.
But I go into every movie wanting to like it, right? And I thought this one had a pretty good message to it. The fact that she ends up hitting her head, you know, she's in a little bit of an accident and she doesn't have self-confidence, and all of a sudden she can look into the mirror and, as the title tells you, she feels pretty. And I was like, okay, this is a movie about self-acceptance. That's dope. It doesn't matter whether I like her comedy or not. I don't have to like the movie, but I can appreciate the message that it's giving to other people out there. No, that's not what's happening. Turns out that she's actually not seeing herself and like accepting herself. She's actually seeing a skinnier version of herself, as she literally goes, whoa, I now have 6-pack abs. I am so toned and fit. And when she looks into the mirror, they forgot to cast the skinny version of who she's seeing. You know, it's a movie. Show don't tell. Now, that's not to say that there still isn't a message by the end of the movie where she does accept herself, that there isn't funny jokes throughout it. There's this podcast joke that I've mentioned before that I thought is completely hilarious, but that idea of wanting to, you know, not cast, you don't have to fully shallow hell it, but to not cast what you're seeing and just continue to see yourself is it's a little bit weird. Almost like, you know, you want to be in camera the whole time, especially with scenes like this. But my biggest question throughout the entire thing was, if you think that you're skinny, you're not going to show the skinny version of yourself, but how are you buying new clothes that would fit the skinny version that's in your mind? Or even if you're just looking at the clothes in your closet, how are you thinking that you fit into the Snuggie that's hung up there? I'm gonna be straight with you. This is a movie that looks great. Both of the actors look great, and like they fall in love. One is going underwater, the other one gets taken away, and it pretty much becomes a refugee, or not a refugee, but a prisoner of war. I'm the dude who explains movies. I either need to watch this one again or have somebody else explain it for me. I'm really glad I skipped this one at Sundance, and not for a bad reason. This is a movie that is done by Spike Lee. It's actually a play. It's a play that was performed here at the Steppenwolf in Chicago, and he pretty much just recorded it with a couple of cameras and then released it as a movie. Not a recording of the play, he literally released this as a movie. And if you remember when Fences was made and Denzel Washington, you know, tried to actually make that into a movie, it still felt a little bit like a play in a movie, and that was some criticisms people had, but at least he took a play that he liked and tried making it cinematic. Your boy Spike Lee literally just recorded a play that someone else was doing and then wanted to release it as a movie. It's on Amazon Prime, so at least you can watch it there. And there are aspects of it that I do like. It's these two guys who are pretty much just chilling in this corner, these two black guys, and they want to find a way to pass over, to get out of the struggle that they're in and be able to leave. And they interact with police officers. They interact with this really weird white dude who appears like freaking Red Riding Hood trying to get something to her mom or her grandmom. And if you didn't like Chirac, you're going to utterly hate the message that he's trying to portray and the ending to this movie.
Are you a team player or aren't you?
I just chugged a 40 with my asshole. I'm a team player.
This is the female Superbad, where the parents decide to Dora the Explorer their kids and figure out when they're going to lose their virginity. And I had said that John Cena, out of the crop of WWE stars, was the funniest. I apologize. I made a mistake. I was wrong. That's Bautista. Movie's okay though. It's a funny movie, and it definitely has that message of girls can be just as vulgar and be able to do whatever they want as boys do. But I mean, you can't really like rating comedies is the weirdest thing in the world. But there are some points. There's a scene when they're in the house, and all of a sudden they literally disappear from the house. They're stuck in the house and they're like performing fellatio. If you've seen it, all of a sudden it just cuts to the next scene. So, like I said, it's a stream it in this little area that it's in. Alright, so there's a bunch of Netflix movies that came out, so I'll just cover them in this little section right here. It's a movie named Dude. Pretty much it's a bunch of girls who smoke weed and remind you that unless you're DJ Khaled, it takes 11 minutes to digest a box. Also proves that the main character is like very annoying and really doesn't learn her lesson. Six Balloons is a movie about addiction. I will always go that Loki and Thor in that elevator scene is the best scenario, covering addiction between a loved one and the person who has that addiction that they can't bite. But this movie, it's depressing, and it's about how the sister has a brother who she knows has relapsed. The brother has a daughter of his own, and she has to come to grips that, you know what? How is it cheaper to buy him drugs so he doesn't freaking die over here instead of the $3,000, $4,000 to put him in rehab, and learning to love him even though he knows he might not change. Amatuer is a sports movie, kind of like First Match. I don't know if I covered that in the last one, but they're two Netflix movies about these high schoolers. One's in basketball, the other one's in girls wrestling, and how they try to come up, and the coaches and the scouting, and how their parents get into it, and they kind of mess up the whole scenario. I think they're both decent movies to watch. The endings to both of them, specifically Amatuer, is very, very happy. A little too happy. The Fourth Company is a surprise. This is a Mexican gridiron gang, if you remember that movie with The Rock, where a bunch of prisoners literally play football, but this one expands to them also being a part of this whole network that's going on. It's a really weird movie. This is one of those ones that gets lost on Netflix, so if you're tired of the things that Netflix keeps recommending you and you want to get into the depths of something, I found this one, and it's kind of interesting. Come Sunday is about a pastor who questions his faith, and he's one of those super big pastors, the evangelist pastor, who then starts going, what if the gays ain't that bad though? This was another Sundance movie that I had missed, but I did catch First Reform and Burden, who also deal with that struggling pastor type of mentality. I think those two do it better than this one, but again, it's a Netflix one if it intrigues you, that's out there. But the one movie that I would recommend off Netflix, and this is complete dumb fun, and it is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's a movie called Psychokinesis, it's spelled a little differently. It's a foreign film, and it's about the security guard who has telekinetic powers. And by the end of the movie, not only is there a bunch of dumb action that he does with his telekinesis, he ends up using it to serve fried chicken to customers. It's so dumb and fun, and I'm glad that it's on Netflix. TV-wise, there's Lost in Space, which freaking everyone went crazy over the sexy robot. It is a sexy robot, don't get me wrong, it is a very sexy robot, but to me, it's a decent show, very great production. It's above sci-fi and CW level, but there are moments, because it's definitely about parenting this family that gets lost over there, and the other interactions that they have with some other members who are on board who may not be the best type of people. But to me, what defines the series is a specific moment where a daughter went through some traumatic experience, and she tells the dad, "Dad, I want to go. I think I could do it." And he goes, "I know you can do it, but I want you to know you can." I'm like, that's what we're doing here? The Rain is one about rain that falls on people, and the moment that it touches them, it causes them to turn a mutant, a zombie, something like that. It's a foreign series. I've only seen a couple of episodes of it. I'm a little iffy with it. If anyone has seen it, you guys can encourage me, tell me what's better about it, but this one is on Netflix. It's a series. I feel like the show is kind of edited like a trailer. It does a lot of these where fades a lot. It's a very interesting premise. I'm just curious whether it goes somewhere. A lot of people are comparing it to The Walking Dead, saying it's a better version, a more refreshing version, but I mean, we'll see, I guess, because it has rain. Queer Eye was one that a lot of people were recommending to me, and I think it's hilarious. This show is completely hilarious. It's about these guys who pretty much come, they all have a different side to them. One is about fashion, the other one helps them socialize, the other one helps them organize. They all have different perspectives that they come to help a dude, so far as I've seen, get better and fix their lives. The worst part of the show is not the five dudes, it's the dude who they always want to help, because it's the most... They're the worst part of the show, because you really feel like they're helpless. There's also a Spy Kids show that Netflix released, which I know I'm way past it, I'm too old for it or whatever. I'm practically Mr. and Mrs. Cortez, not Junie and Carmen anymore, but... Yo, this show is a perfect adaptation of what the original live action movies was about. It pretty much just covers, I guess, the in-between between 2 and 3, maybe? 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, or maybe right after the first one. I highly recommend it. I think it's really good. I saw it by myself, but if you have a kid or if you're babysitting, I think this is the perfect one. And even more so, The Boss Baby Back in Business Season 1. Alright, so these are the ones that are right before the must-watches. These are the ones that I would recommend, if you can go out to Redbox, if you have a matinee in a theater to go watch these. First being Super Troopers 2. I saw the 4:20 p.m. showing on 4:20. I saw both back to back, so I know that the biggest thing every time you have comedies that take like 20 years to release the sequel, you don't know if it's going to have the same vibe. I think it's the exact same vibe. If you find the second one to be dumb, you're probably not going to like the first one, and vice versa. If you like the first one, this is a perfect continuation to it, and it's just as dumb, fun, meow as the first one was. I remember first seeing Belle Polly in, I think it was Diary of a Teenage Girl, and I thought she was really good. That movie is super awkward, and I recommend it, just super awkward, but I thought she was a very good actress, and she continues to show that here. It's this movie about adolescence. You can see that as the metaphor about how her body is changing and how she went through maybe a traumatic past, or definitely a traumatic past, as you see her go from like living in the woods to living in society with actual people. And there's also this kind of horror aspect to it, definitely a horror aspect to it, that I've heard some people say, oh, it's all a metaphor, maybe it's not a metaphor. It's interesting, right? It's either this story about this girl who went through some trauma and then is now growing up with it, or a girl who's actually a wolf. So there was 2 horse movies that came out this past month. I wasn't able to see The Rider. I'll be doing that for the wrap up in May, but I was able to catch this one, and I chose this one over it only because I really liked the director's previous work, 45 Years. But like 45 Years, I know that this movie's pacing may not be for everyone. It may feel like 45 years to those people, but this is about a kid who falls in love with this horse named Lean on Pete, has this affection, you know, towards the horse, and when he realizes that they're gonna put the horse down because it's not fast enough to race, my dude like Charlotte's Webs it. It becomes like a road movie with a horse a little bit, where he just tries to escape with the horse. And if there's one thing the director does well, just like he did with 45 Years, is being able to just meet side characters and make them feel like they're already fleshed out, of being able to not have this be this grandiose tale of, oh, he's gonna find this horse and he's gonna help the horse be faster than he ever was, but just like seeing this kid and what he's going through and his moments in life and his surroundings and how he shows his affection towards the horse and how he tries to do something with the horse. Whether it ends well or not, that's, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but it's a good movie. Zoe Kravitz has been blowing up. This girl has been in a bunch of features and songs. She was in the Janelle Monáe album. She was in the Ray Shremmerd album on one of the tracks. And as an actress, she's obviously been doing her thing. And in Gemini, she plays an actress who is kind of like, just wants to get out of the spotlight. And one day she meets a fan, and an interaction happens that night where she ends up dead the next morning. So now everyone's freaking out because this actress is dead. Who did it? Was it suicide? Was it the assistant? What's going on here? And it's a very interesting movie, and I like the style of it. If you like Nightcrawler, I think it definitely uses that cinematography well. The way Nightcrawler captures LA at night, this movie does a really good job with it. The colors Neon Demon had. The only thing is that this movie is very much in love with LA, and it shows you a lot of stills of LA. And there are some character moments where I'm like, girl, you ain't guilty, but you're really making yourself look guilty for no reason whatsoever. I like the last third of it. I had my theory for how it was going to end and who did it and whatnot, and it pretty much came true. But I'm also, anything John Cho is in for this year, anything John Cho is in, I'm supporting it. Searching, coming out soon, still my favorite of the year, and I'll be covering in the next one. Marrowbone, I thought, was a decent horror film. It's this movie that takes place, it's more of a period piece a couple of years back, and it's this family who like never leaves their house. It's only the son who leaves the house. They don't have a dad, and he has to leave to, like, you know, pick up groceries and whatever else, and everyone sees him as being weird because his family never leaves that home. And then one day, right in the beginning of the movie, the mom passes away, and they need to figure out how to keep the house because, you know, without the mother being there, the father hasn't been there for a while because he did something atrocious. He needs to hold everything together while everyone's thinking he's crazy, while the dude's trying to take away his house, while they pretty much like have no money other than something that may be up in the attic. It's a really interesting tale, but if you've seen another movie, and I don't want to spoil it, one of my favorite horror movies of all time has this last act reveal. So for this movie to do it, It's just a little too similar. Of course, the other side to horror, besides the plot and the twist or reveal, whatever you want to call it, is the atmosphere. And I think it builds a great atmosphere. The way that it's shot, the way that, you know, most of the movie takes place in this house. The actors and actresses, Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic. All of the siblings, they just have this creepiness factor to it, especially if you go on their IMDb and you see everything else that they've been in, right? Like the guy from Strangest Things, looks like he's on... I think he's on drugs, actually. The other girl who was in last year, the movie with Dane DeHaan, where it was like the gothic tale, The Cure for Wellness, she obviously has a look for it. Anya Taylor-Joy does. So for that alone, I still think it's worth giving it a watch. So this is a movie where The Rock finally finds someone his own size to come up against, and pretty much it's based off of the video game, but it's like they have this medicine, this potent, I don't know what it is, that lands on Earth, that this company was trying to do something in space with, lands on Earth, and it pretty much creates this crazy werewolf that can fly like a bat, this other alligator dinosaur thing, and then it causes George to really become Bucky from Captain America. Like, he's still a good guy, but he can't help the fact that he's being controlled and doesn't know how to stop going on a rampage. I thought the movie was a lot of fun. There are definitely a lot of cliches to it, and I still thought that the whole last act that takes place in Chicago was the best dumb fun you can have in a movie until it reached that ending. I made a video mainly because of this movie. It was my Rock Theory video, because this dude changed the ending because he's so concerned about every movie having this happy ending, even if it doesn't make any sense at all. But the rest of the movie was still fun. Now, this movie had a lot of dumb things that were going with it, but I still thought it was enjoyable. You know, I thought Jim from The Office did a really good job directing this movie. I still see him as Jim from The Office. I liked that it kind of felt, because it is a Paramount film, it kind of felt like a dumber version of 10 Cloverfield Lane. It very much feels, it's shot very similar to it, the whole bunker kind of setting that they have to it, the monsters coming to attack. But it's just the Bayisms in it, right? Because he also helped produce this movie, and the Bayisms, like having the movie called A Quiet Place, and then they're smacking the bathtub door for whatever reason. Some people are yelling for whatever reason. It took me a while to realize there's something. Oh yeah, that's right. A scene when someone steps on a nail, but you wonder why the nail was ever even like coming up from the floorboards to begin with. There's a lot of dumb stuff within the movie, but it doesn't stop it from still being enjoyable. It doesn't stop it from still being very well done in the way that they handle the audio, especially with one of the characters being deaf in real life as well, and how they play into that. But there are still a lot of other moments where you're like, I wish this was a bit more quiet because of the title, that you weren't super depending on the score. I don't really know about a sequel, but hey, depends on what director you get on it. Alright, so these are the must-watches of the month. Like I always say, with what I said with the other ones, if you have watched this far, then props to you guys. Love you guys over there. So just comment down below. Like I said, if you go follow Marcus Theaters on Twitter or on Facebook, you know, and just let them know A to Z sent you, the best theaters, all that stuff. Just comment down below Marcus Theaters and what your favorite movie of April was. So we'll have that be the thing. If you've seen it this far, just comment that. Marcus Theaters, your favorite thing down below. And I will heart everyone who comments that at least within like the first day or two of posting this thing. But let me give you my top 5 must-watches. First one being... Now this one and my number 4 are those ones that I'm a little weary to highly recommend. Like I don't want you guys rushing to the theater to go see it, even though I do think they're theater worthy. Mainly because when I first saw this one, I didn't fully adore it. It is the story of this hitman played by Joaquin Phoenix who goes out and tries to stop this like human trafficking ring that's going on, and he lives with his mother. It's just him and his mother, and he's got all of these crazy flashbacks from his childhood. The man pretty much tries to suffocate himself, and by the end of the movie, it's kind of left open to interpretation, and it wasn't until I was talking to other people about it, and we came up with this theory. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But after seeing it again, I felt the theory fits perfectly. I don't want to spoil what it is, but it made me appreciate the movie, especially because of how dark it gets at certain points with this man's trauma, even though he's the one who's also delivering trauma. A cool note about it as well is the fact that this movie was at Cannes, whatever you want to call it, most pretentious film festival out there, and it won awards, and it got done. It was a rough cut that was turned in, that was barely finished, done getting edited right before the screening. I think that's an interesting thing to put out there. So this is the other one where, again, seeing it first time, I appreciated it, I liked it, but it wasn't until the more that I got into it, realizing that there's a whole bigger story to it, listening to the directors and how they connect everything together, that I'm like, y'all got some juice in this bad boy. It's the story of these two brothers who were like raised in a cult after their mom died in a car accident, and they eventually leave and they want to live their own lives, and their lives are so boring, they're like, let's go back to the cult. The thing about it is that you start questioning, are they a cult? They are a little bit weird, but is it them, or is it all this weird phenomenon that's happening over here as they're located in the middle of nowhere in like Southern California in this desert? Some crazy time loops may be coming into play, some crazy phenomenon up in the sky, weird things that are going on, and when you first see it, you pick up on a couple of things. The second time you see it, you pick up on a couple of other things. Then you realize that these directors have another movie. They have a movie called Spring, and I highly recommend it, but there's another movie I didn't know about. I hadn't seen it, but having seen the trailer and then not spoiling fully completely, but seeing how that movie kind of connects to this film, they both still stand on their own. But it's kind of like, peanut butter and Nutella. You put them together. They're great by themselves. You put them together, you got yourself a really good sandwich. That's what this movie is when you combine it with the first film that they came out with, about these two guys who are also out in a similar desert, and how, in my opinion, it kind of plays on these guys being in a horror movie. In this one, it kind of plays on not only the themes of being stuck in a loop, but also how that metaphor goes into people being stuck in life. Maybe I'm being too cryptic, but I highly recommend the movie. Also, it's super low budget, which I have to add to it. The directors are the actual actors in it. I'm not going to say that the effects are the best that they possibly are, but there's a charm to how that kind of helps the movie. Completely on the opposite side is Avengers Infinity War. And as you know, 2 indie movies, blockbuster, I don't care. If a movie has an effect on me, I don't care about it having to be too pretentious or having it to be, the one that's most liked by people. This movie, and I'm still waiting on part 2 because it's definitely a 2-part, and we're going to see how that helps build it up, but the Russo brothers delivered on Civil War. They've delivered on stuff like Arrested Development. They delivered on this one. I have no reason to doubt them on the next one, and that they're going to, subvert our expectations. But this one, the way, it don't matter whether you're into the superheroes or not, the way they handled all of these characters, all of these actors, and were able to make something cohesive with them, bro, it's fantastic. All those critics out there, the New Yorker, I love reading you guys because I love differing opinions, but y'all are trying a little too hard. These are the movies with your background, bro. Just because you go into Avengers Infinity War and haven't seen the other ones, that's not the movie's fault. What, you gonna watch Westworld Season 2, Breaking Bad Season 5? No. You know what to do. All those movies are out there. That's your backstory. And even without that, the movie still holds on its own, because I brought people who didn't really remember all of the other ones. They followed along just right. And it's hilarious. I still go, it was not Quill's fault. All right, he was just being emotional that he made a mistake. But y'all blaming him, it wasn't his fault. Thor's still the best character. Thor did pull a Bill Belichick. He should have gone for the head instead. I'm just excited for the second one. Why is Gamora? I'ma hit you. Oh, another quick thing on Avengers Infinity War. Tom Holland, if you guys haven't seen The Impossible, highly recommend The Impossible. It's his best performance of all time. That's why I'm saying that for a comic book movie, it was uncalled for that you went back and tried pulling a performance like that. I'ma hit you back in a minute.
That back and forth was so good, I felt like Shonda Rhimes wrote us.
I was thinking that the whole time, but I didn't think I could say it.
So my top 2 are TV shows, and this is the Netflix original series, Dear White People. I had brought up how I'm not the biggest fan of the movie, thought it was okay, very pretentious, but I've always been big that sometimes a story is better in a book, in a comic, as a TV series, as a play, as a movie. This story thrives and is so much better as a TV series than it could ever be in a movie, in my opinion, just because of how it fleshes out the characters. It's about this college that's it's this very pretentious, very astute college that has this show that a girl runs called Dear White People. And I know that a lot of people have had this thing about, oh, it's so offensive. What if there was a Dear Black People show? Don't get me wrong. If y'all follow my show, you know I like seeing both sides, and I get the perspective of it, of wow, that comes out very off-putting to a demographic perhaps, but I still say don't judge a book by its cover. And I'd mentioned that with the first season. I think the second season is even better. Definitely watch it. It is not what you think it is about just bashing white people or just bashing black people. It is a mixture of social commentary, but most importantly, a fantastically told story. If you like Mr. Robot and the framing that they have with that, this movie has it down pat. The quippy dialogue, the way that the whole 10 episode season is done like as an anthology almost, seeing different perspectives of the different characters, conspiracies that are coming up, different like love triangles, different things that, you know, you're trying to figure out, oh, who could this secret Twitter person be who's causing all this commotion? It is a very entertaining show. If the first season was all about causing buzz and like a disruption, the second season about building conspiracies, the third season is ready to cement itself as one of the best shows on Netflix, in my opinion, and I highly recommend it. Give it a chance because it's a lot more open-ended and a lot more welcoming, as harsh as it seems, and thought-provoking that you may lead it to believe with a title as abrasive as Dear White People. Y'all know what it is. Y'all seen this far. You already know. If you watch the A to Z show and you're not watching Westworld, you're offensive, you're disrespectful. You should be watching Westworld. I've said if I could, I'd give you guys all my password so you can go watch it. Can't do that because HBO gonna block me out. Season 1 is fantastic. I got videos on Season 1. I'm gonna be making a video for Season 2 to wrap up the season. I'll be probably covering it on the Intercut podcast, which you can follow. You know, I have it always linked down below and on the side. If you're a fan of Blade Runner 2049, this movie does it better. If you love the Nolans and their crazy, intricate timeline stuff, bro, it's the Nolan who writes the movies that's in this movie. It's an HBO show. Definitely give it a watch. I got nothing more to say other than watch the show. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Again, let me know your thoughts down below on what your favorite was of April. Just comment Marcus Theaters and this was your favorite. Like I said, every week if you see the Friday show, it's kind of been shifting around, but usually the Friday show is when I do the Twitter one, and it's always based around a movie. And at the end of it, if you're in the Chicagoland area, Marcus Theaters has hooked it up to get you guys free tickets to go with you and another person to whatever the new release is. We did it for Avengers, we did it for Mother's Day, and we want to try to expand it. So like I said, if you like the show, as simple as just going to go like them on Twitter and Facebook will really help it out. But let me know your thoughts on what your favorite was of April, what you're looking forward to May, and I'm going to be hitting you with a couple more videos coming up. So see you guys later.